Don't tell us what we're going to feel. You're right now not in a very good position. You're gambling with World War III.
Mr. President,
The 6 weeks since Donald Trump assumed office have come close to breaking the Western alliance.
Je veux croire que les États-Unis resteront.
European leaders are warning their peoples that their continent is on its own,
Si tel n'était pas le cas.
and that it must prepare for war with Russia.
We're living in the most momentous and dangerous of times.
NATO isn't dead yet, at least on paper, but Donald Trump has taken an axe to confidence in Article 5, the commitment that all members will answer the call to defend any other member.
I said, if you're not going to pay your bills, we're not going to defend you.
It's in our interest that NATO survive. If it doesn't survive, we'll have to be prepared to think of other alternatives, and that probably will mean greater association with our European allies.
We are in an era of rearmament.
Europe is rearming on a massive scale. Countries are introducing mandatory military training, even talking about going nuclear. But where does that leave Canada?
It only works as a state. It doesn't. We don't need anything they have.
Lately, Canadians are feeling threatened mainly by the United States. Europeans are not. So why would Europe invite Canada, with its small and understrength military, into a mutual defense pact?
Visiting Canada for a G7 meeting, the EU and German foreign ministers sent a message of support.
Simply saying, we're there for you, I think is not going to cut it.
While Europeans feel threatened by Russia, Canadians lately feel more threatened by their former ally to the south.
And countries facing different threats don't usually make natural allies.
The single greatest risk to Canada has always been Canada alone in the world. If we don't make a concrete offer to Europe, and Europe goes it alone, and we don't have a partner that values us in Europe, our only option is to draw even closer to the United States than we already are.
But there are those in Europe who want to keep Canada inside the circle.
Canada is the only non-European country that's been invited to these meetings. Of course, it's a NATO ally, which makes sense, of course, because first and foremost, a sense of common values and an equal commitment, to upholding the international order, which is being severely strained at the moment.
If there is a security agreement, it should be even-handed, and it should encompass also the idea to defend Canada.
Canada may never be able to offer Europe much in the way of troop presence, but it has other things that Europe needs. Europe has been struggling to get off Russian oil and gas. It remains dependent on liquid natural gas from the US.
Europe is significantly open to energy extortion by the Trump administration.
It is much better to finance Canada and to receive Canadian fossil energy.
That requires Canada to build pipelines to get its oil and gas to the East Coast. The Europeans have also shown strong interest in Canadian renewables, but again, the infrastructure needs to be built.
Canada, I believe, has also the chance to offer cooperation in green energy, common investments, joint ventures of European investors and Canada could be also a way out.
Canadian food, oil and raw materials helped keep Britain afloat during the darkest days of the Second World War. Arms factories in Canada operated beyond the reach of German bombers.
If there's a conflict in Europe, Canada provides defense in depth. It's much harder to hit this country with missiles.
We've seen in Ukraine just how much of industry can be completely obliterated by these constant missile attacks. And although Europe is going to invest in air defense and ballistic missile defense, putting some more of that in Canada, I think that's a great idea that's worth looking at.
If I was a politician, I would be saying, every factory in Canada that's going out of business, we're going to figure out how we can make it part of the defense industrial complex and how we can provide for our European partners.
Well, first,
and Canadian politicians are starting to pitch this country as a valuable ally in search of a new alliance.
Why? Because we have all the energy necessary, we have all the fertilizers and potash necessary, we have all the uranium necessary, the hydroelectricity, the oil and gas, we have all the people, the critical minerals, the talent. I could go on and on and on.
An energy and natural resource superpower with a large landmass far removed from Russian missiles. A place where European allies can train their forces and safely manufacture arms and other critical technology. That could be the basis of a new grand bargain between Canada and Europe, at a time when the US is no longer a neighbor that Canada can trust.